kind of go over the city council assignments and do that. But in doing so, we could probably look at those assignments for just a minute, if you don't mind. And then, Sean, do you want to add anything to this? And then when you kind of get done, I think we'll turn the time over to Brett to talk about some of the things that he wanted to discuss.
Well, maybe Lindsay, can you pull up?
It's the very first. It's the very first item.
Page 4.
I just clicked on it.
So these are the current assignments, or I guess the old assignments now. Understanding that Wes is a new council member and doesn't currently have assignments. I would say that that there's nothing in the state code that assigns assignments to the city council on this level of detail. I mean, you have duties, and those duties, and I guess I would speak to this issue because I think it's important. You as a elected official and as a governing body have responsibilities that no one else can assume. And I frankly feel like your best efforts and time are spent in doing some of those statutory responsibilities. And those are, primarily policy making and creating legislation and advocating on behalf of the city, with other elected officials in their legislative and policy making. And to that end, one of the assignments that's shown here that wasn't very clear, and I asked Mark to dig a little deeper into it, and he reached out to the Utah League of Cities and Towns, and there's what's called the LPC, Legislative Policy Committee. And essentially what that is it's a committee that is facilitated by the Utah League of Cities and Towns, an advocacy group and lobbying group for cities' interest with state legislature. And it meets on a weekly basis during the legislative session with the state. And otherwise it drops to a monthly meeting. And there's up to 3 representatives that we can have from the city participate at that level. And, I anticipate from the Utah League of Cities and Towns Conference that there's going to be a lot of proposed legislation that may affect you and your ability to do, to fulfill your responsibilities, and realizing that they grant you the authority, to act in your office. It's really defined by the legislation that they propose, but there's some thought that they're going to be more prescriptive and limit city's authority and ability, and so it is something to keep your eye on and pay attention and get engaged. And that's what they encouraged us, as you probably remember, all through the conference, was to engage with the state legislature, our representative and our senator, and just to have a dialogue and let them know that it's important. Some of the authority they've already granted, not to take it away. So, but otherwise, as it relates to responsibilities where we have existing departments and department heads, more operational issues, I think there's one that talks about roads, there's one that talks about parks, and, we certainly have department heads that fulfill those roles. And I frankly feel like, the department heads coming to the city council collectively is a better approach than working individually with any one council member. And so, in summary, I would just say I'd focus on what's unique and, what only you can fulfill as a policymaker and as someone who legislates, and then just sort of prioritize your time, because that in and of itself, if you did decide to get involved in the LPC, that's quite a time commitment, not to mention your city council meetings and, the packets and all the information we provide to you. It's frankly a lot. So, I don't think you want to stretch yourself too thin by having responsibilities, beyond those.
So that's a great segue right into what Brett has been what he's been given a lot of thought to and everything. And so maybe what we could do is talk a little bit about Brett's idea with the pillars and goals and visions and all of that kind of thing.
Well, and this is more Mark and Sean and I, we've been working on this for several years. But with the mission and vision, I think over the next several months, I'd like to put that committee together, get that committee together with members of the community and kind of get their input on our mission and vision, and then maybe help us tweak it a little bit, just kind of get their input, and also a communication plan. But then the pillars, I really think that we ought to come up with some pillars. For example, safety. Okay, maybe safety is one of our 6 pillars that's most important to the city. And then I think we have one of the council members kind of champion that pillar, and, all it is, just a way of, how we doing in our safety, and, and it's not necessarily taking any responsibility over any department head or anything like that, but maybe just a way of being a champion for that pillar. And that could help give us a little accountability on the pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then I think some of these things may just automatically drop into some of those pillars, And so it's not an answer that we're going to get direction on today. This is what all of us are going to be doing. But I think that would help give us some direction in the future on how we can be more proactive in our role as council people. And so we're going to make sure, we'll need to go through and bring up the pillars. We'll discuss them together. We'll work through them together, and we'll get everything set, and then we'll start figuring out who wants to champion which pillar.
So you guys have been working on this for some time. Where do we go from, where would you like to see us go from here?
Well, Mark, we need to button up the mission and vision, right?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about possibly going through a branding process, which would help us understand who we are and what our mission and vision is.
But you came up with kind of another concept that I thought was really intriguing with some tracking software or...
Yeah, so I reached out to a company called ClearPoint Strategies, and they do a lot of tracking software. What they mainly do is they take your plan, and so we kind of have to come up with the plan first, but then they'll break your plan down and put it out there so that it's more of a dashboard for the community, so they can see how the city is implementing their plans. Their general plans, their just all the different plans that we have, and that we've gone through all this work to create, and then department heads and city employees will track what they're doing to fulfill these plans, and it's kind of more of a dashboard.
And kind of make that information available, not kind of, but make it available to the public so
Right
they
on
can
the
see
webpage, yeah.
This is where we're at, this is what the plan is, this is what we're doing. That would be some amazing data for people to look at and know that this is where we're headed and this is what we're doing, and give them some input.
Yeah.
I think it would really go well with that communication plan as well as other plans that we're putting into place. Now, would we need to rebrand with something like that?
No, not necessarily. No, they could help you. They could help us formulate kind of a base structure and put our existing plans into it.
I know we went through some of this branding stuff a few years ago. I think 2016, clear back. It's been a while. We talked a little bit about going back and revisiting some of the things that they told us back then. Well, I don't know that we want to, maybe we don't need to hire anybody to help us rebrand or anything, but we could probably revisit some of that stuff. And
Yeah, well, we never, Mr. Mayor, we never actually went through a branding process.
just had those presentations, and they
we went out for requests for proposals and bids about the process and a bid about how they, what they would charge. And we got to that point, we vetted them, there was a selection committee, there was a recommendation made, but at the time, the city council decided to not proceed with the actual branding process. And that's when you might remember, we essentially just revisited our logo and,
But it seems like we had some back and forth, we had a little bit of discussion going back and forth that might be useful, is what I kind of remember, but maybe I'm,
well, we might have invited people to actually, you might have been on the selection committee and they might have come up and did a presentation, those
That's what I
prospective
remember.
shortlisted
Yeah.
consultants. And, but as far as actually going through the process, we've never gone through a branding process.
I mean, rebranding, especially with everything that's going on with growth and everything that, and the community starting to really get involved, maybe we need to think about that. We've got some increased revenues coming from sales tax and things like that. Maybe now's the time to do it. I think it's something we should consider.
Yeah.
But it was like 50,000, 65.
It was at the time. And, one of the discussion points that I thought, to put into perspective, Tremont City is, 15, 18 million, depending on capital projects. And spending, $50,000. I mean, any company that has that much, revenue and is that large of a company would certainly, invest in a branding process. And so I think it's money well spent to try to put a brand, especially as we start building out infrastructure and as we start trying to create a name and an image for ourselves and putting a brand on some of the infrastructure. We talked about streetscapes, for example, along Main Street, and not having a brand that we can get behind and support and try to further the city and its what we're trying to accomplish, I think would count against us. And that was one of the first things that you might recall when we did the SDAT process. And that was one of the first things they talked about doing, is going through a branding process. And so what direction you're going, what you're trying to market and reinforce and build upon. So that's sort of what was the genesis of actually, going through the RFP and the proposal to try to engage someone to help us with that piece of it.
it almost seems to me like that's an initial stage, an initial, maybe even before the pillars, we have some sort of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
From that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get moving on it. I know how slow city government can be sometimes, and in 4 years from now, I'd like to feel like I've accomplished something in this 4 years. And so
2 years from now,
yeah.
1 year from now.
So, it'd be nice to, if we're gonna move, let's move.
Okay.
That's
And I-
my feeling, but I don't know how the rest of the council feels about spending that kind of money on rebranding.
What do you guys think?
I feel good about it. And I thought there was already a model that you'd already started on. I thought you showed at one point.
Oh, we went through a mission vision, we went through that process.
Right.
Kind of like we did
But
at
then
work
it-
a long time
but
ago.
then it didn't
kinda-
go.
Well, we kind of just stopped,
Okay.
but I think we could move forward, but we still don't have that brand, where's that top level plan of where we want to be, and then if we have that, then it's a lot easier to
Sure.
develop a plan to get there,
Sure.
and we try doing it here internally, but I don't know that we,
But I think involving the community would be a really good idea.
and that was part of their rebranding process that they came in with, was involving the community to help develop that.
How much did you say it was estimated to cost?
50 to 65,000.
Man, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That was
That's what
4 or 5 years ago.
Stumbling block 5 or 6 years ago. 2016.
You know, there's always a fire that we're putting out, and this gets put on the back burner, and we all know that this is important to have a structure and a framework. Maybe, I mean, I'd like to see us hit it again by ourselves without spending that kind of money, and have a deadline, and then if the deadline's not met, then start considering outside help.
You know, the university, just throwing this out there, USU has, graduate students that are actually doing this sort of thing. You know, that's sort of the field that they're going out in. And sometimes you can access that kind of skill, for a fraction of maybe what it would cost to do, to hire somebody to do it. And probably and they might even have more current, ideas and things like that, might be something to look into. And I could do some checking around over there, snooping around a little bit and talk to USU and, well, Weber State, any of them, not just USU, but some of the other colleges as well. But those graduate students, they're just anxious for an opportunity like this, to get involved, so.
Well, I think it'd be good to set deadlines, and if we're not meeting those deadlines, then take further action at that point.
Yeah, I just don't know that we have the expertise to pull this together.
Yeah, part of
That's my concern.
the branding, it was research-based branding. So part of it was, reaching out to the public, doing surveys, kind of evaluating, creating a database of research that would support the brand, and then coming up with, the whole, visual aspects of it. And also, they had narratives, about what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, it was pretty comprehensive. So, and we could pull out the two proposals that I think were kind of rose to the top, so you could sort of see what the scope of work was, what the deliverables were, just get a sense of what magnitude, was contemplated with that price tag, and see if that's what you want, if that's the scope you want. And, I think what they were proposing was really beyond what city staff could reasonably do. In fact, we kind of we went to a University of USU student to help with the logo, and then that got reworked internally by city staff. And that's kind of where we're at.
But we were able to utilize the university when it came to designing the website and those kinds of things those skills that probably would be a little less than going out and hiring, somebody that actually does that for a living.
Yeah.
But, no, that's good. All right, do you have anything
No,
else?
I just, like, with these things here, I mean, yeah, I serve on the Arts Council. We do all these things here, but I agree with you, Sean. We really need to put our energy into the things that are important to our legislative responsibilities, and for example, I have planning commission. I was going to ask to drop that, but I think I'll run with it a little while longer, because there's some things I think we could accomplish on the planning commission in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And that's going to take a lot of energy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
The LPC can have 3 members and 1 alternate, and 2 members have to be from the,
Legislative sort of, council sort of thing.
and then the 3rd member can be a staff member, and the alternate can be a staff member as well. So
Three?
3 voting
And
members and 1 alternate.
two council members
Yeah, voting,
and one
council or mayor.
council or mayor.
So how often do they need to be on Capitol Hill?
I think most of the meetings are actually via Zoom, the LPC meetings,
Did you say they were once a week?
during the legislative
Oh, okay.
session, then once a month, the
Once
rest
a
of
month,
the year.
okay. So
should
we need
be
to get
nice
that
to have that
identified.
input.
We should identify that pretty quick, because that legislative
if that's what
session,
we want to do.
Yeah, we do actually have a resolution. Mark put together a resolution based upon the information that he had.
And is that tonight?
We could put it on next council, or you could even just,
So it doesn't have to be officially through resolution for me to give the names to them. So if you wanted to come up with the names tonight, we could get you going on it, and then we could solidify it with a resolution.
Just kind of felt like a resolution would be good, sort of as if this is going to be an ongoing assignment, it would be well to sort of formalize it.
Could it be sort of a ratification, sort of a thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the session's going to be starting up, we probably ought to at least
agree.
identify where,
agree.
who we're going to do this. And is that something that everybody feels good about? I mean,
I won't have the time with the time I put into the planning commission.
no, probably not. What do y'all think? I mean, I'd be willing to do it. I just don't know. I'm kind of a tenderfoot right now. I don't know exactly. I don't know what I don't know as far as assignments and things like that are going to come this way. But I certainly would be. That's an area that I would see would be very beneficial for Tremonton to have some say on that committee. But what do the rest of you think?
Kind of busy.
We're all busy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm going to be retiring in less than a month. And,
Right on.
and I may have some time to do that.
You'd be good at it,
She would be.
especially with your other responsibility. It'd go well hand in hand.
So I wouldn't mind assuming that.
What do you think, Lyle?
I think sounds good. Connie, if
Wes?
you're willing to do
I
it.
think it sounds good, but I'm sure I'd have to be out. That's a little more than my
Pay grade?
daytime job can,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh. Well, why don't we just kind of plan on that, Mark, and then we'll go from there. But I think, I don't know how we can
Well,
get
let's,
this thing, because we've talked about it forever.
all right, so let's really start pushing on it. By the next meeting, let's have together those proposals, and let's bring those and give them to everyone so they can see at least what they offered. And then we can answer to ourselves, can we accomplish some of this on our own, or do we need to go outside and get the help?
Or maybe you shorten the scope. Maybe you say, let's work on this piece, the research this year, or, whatever you need to sort of build into it.
Right.
I think Mark was going to also kind of reach out and see if part of that, if those consultants have ever, worked in a mission and vision or mission statement and vision statement as part of it. Is that
Yeah, and I haven't done that yet.
I think that gives us a lot to do between now and the next meeting in 2 weeks, don't you? But I agree, Lyle, let's push. Let's push this, and let's get it done. Let's get
I
going.
agree.
Because everyone wants something done.
I think the time, I mean, we've sort of turned the page a little bit, and so this gives us a fresh opportunity to go after some of these things, and I think it's a really good idea.
And if
So-
an email's sent to you and asks for response and all that, it will save a lot of time if you can respond and be active during the 2 weeks rather than just waiting every 2 weeks to discuss. So try to be active in responding to
the
emails
dialogue.
and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay. That's really good. Thanks, Brett. Sean? Well, all right. Should we go through the agenda real quick and just see where we're at? Maybe at least we've got a few minutes to do that. And so the opening ceremony, I've asked, okay, so this is going to be kind of weird. We're going to resume our old seats for the opening ceremony up until the swearing in of the new elected officials. And then Roger's going to sit here, I'm going to sit there. Wes, you'll have to be in the audience for
I can
just a
be in
little
the
bit.
audience.
And then what we'll do is we'll have the swearing in, and that's when we'll call you up. You're on, but you're sort of, this is all ceremonial. This is all ceremonial, what we're doing here, so. Let's see, I don't think we have any guests that are going to be presenting. Is there going to be any declaration of conflict with anybody? we're good to go there. The minutes, were there any comments or any discussion about the minutes from December 7th? Did go over. I read through those and all umpteen pages of them. Let's see, public comments. We've discussed this over the last couple of weeks, and one thing we felt like we wanted to do a little bit different. Up until this point, the public comment period has always been, the people would come up and they'd make their comments. We would not respond to those comments as council members. It was just a hearing session. But as we've gone through the last couple of months and all of the comments and the public interest and all of that kind of thing, we decided what we're going to do. Instead of just sitting up here and just listening to the comments, we're going to now keep in mind here that not every comment everybody that makes a public comment, we may and may not be able to answer those questions on the spot. Some of them are technical in nature and probably needed a little time to go through and think, but we will respond to that person who had the question within 2 or 3 days via email. So somebody might come up and they might make a comment. We'll go ahead and maybe Brett knows how to answer that question or has the ability to answer that question. He's going to answer the question, and then we'll have some discussion. Not that we're going to go on forever about this, but we'll try to keep it timely. But if somebody comes up and they have this question that is maybe technical in nature, and we don't have the answer to it right at the moment, we'll assign a council member or Sean or Paul or Robert or whoever, to get back to them. So we're going to probably require, if you're going to come up and do this, probably need to get with Lindsay and get us your email address. So there's a way for us to get back on that. Now, that's how I understood it. Does anybody else have anything to add to that? Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
I added email address to the roll.
What's that?
I added email address and phone number.
Oh,
to the roll,
perfect.
so if they'll
Okay.
Write it down when they sign the roll, then we got it.
Okay, there you go. We got that solved right there. Okay, good. Do we have any questions about the October financial statements or the warrant register? Try to go through this fairly fast. How about the November financial statements or warrant register? Okay. We're good. Discussion and consideration of approving resolution number 22-01, approving the annual review of the Tremonton City's moderation income housing plan implementation and preparing a report for sending for the findings of the said review in compliance with Utah Code 10-9A-408. Sean?
Yeah, this is relatively a new requirement. We've always been required to report to the state. I think it was every 2 years. They recently changed that to every year, and part of that process, they're trying to refine their tools, their data tools to help us generate the report. But generally, the report consists of using their database and plugging in numbers that really are provided by the state, and the accuracy, I think, needs to be worked on through the state themselves. So we report to the Division of Workforce Services and to Bragg is who this report is forwarded to. So there's that piece, the number piece. There's also reviewing our plan, our moderate income housing plan, which we recently adopted, and part of that plan in the state code, and I would tell you that that's a required element of our general plan, is having a moderate income housing plan. And it is in the state code that we have to identify strategies that we will do to essentially remove barriers for affordable housing. And a big part of that is rezoning property when it's appropriate to higher densities. And there's a list of things, and I don't know if you want me to dive right into that report now, if you want to wait till the actual policy session.
Why don't we wait till the policy session and then we can kind of
Okay.
get through the rest of this, but
So what you're required to do is, the state legislature wants to make you aware of where the city's at, what we've been doing, and really make everyone accountable. And so that's the reason why it has to come to you, and you have to approve the report. And we have to monitor annually, our progress towards implementation based upon the strategies that we've selected.
okay, good. Any questions on that? Okay, discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-02 and reaffirm Sean Warnke as a member of the Utah Telecommunication Open Infrastructure Agency, Utopia, Board of Directors, and appointing Mark Christensen as the alternative member of the Utopia Board of Directors. Pretty self-explanatory right there, I think. Everybody's okay with that?
Marky.
Well,
Sean's absent.
oh, I think Mark's going to do great. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-03, ratifying the Aspen Ridges Townhome Development and Raspbian Ridge Phase 2 Subdivision Development Agreement. Sean?
Yeah, so Lindsay, if you could scroll to that staff report, as you well know, and maybe with some newly elected officials, let me explain. With every subdivision that is approved, the city, by virtue of our development code, requires that we enter into a development agreement with the subdivider. And, key elements of the development agreement include, it really comes, most of the language is a template language that our attorney has created and has evolved and been refined over the years. But I would draw your attention to a few things that are unique and specific to each development, and that's the special conditions section. And that's where we formalize all the requirements of the developer. And this subdivision, this is where we, for example, will formalize and identify the dedication of water shares for our secondary water system in the special conditions section. This is also where we, any fee in lieu that people are paying instead of making improvements. Like, for example, if we have a curb and gutter and sidewalk that the developer needs to install in front of their project, but because, it's either isolated or we need to do a larger section, we just have them pay the fee. All those types of special conditions are formalized in that section. There's also the engineer's estimate that's included, that's specific to the improvements that are required for the project. And I think those are the highlights. So Aspen Ridge, I think everyone likely knows where that is, but that's off Rocket Road. It's a townhome project, 1200 South, next to the South Stake Center, I think is what they call it. And there's the plat itself, it's phase 2. If you scroll down to the next page, you'll see the special conditions. And I always try to just put these to the plat, so you have hopefully a sense of where it's at. Sometimes it's hard to recognize it based upon the plat itself, but these are all the special conditions that I told you that I think are important, to be formalized.
Aren't
So
the units already up?
they are. So we are a little bit behind, but essentially the development code says that we can go ahead and record projects and then have the council ratify the development agreement because you've adopted a template development agreement, unless there's something atypical and unusual.
Like an overlay or something like that.
Yeah, or something that, we're negotiating or something like that, then we bring it, before it's recorded. But most of these special conditions fall within what's required of the development code, and it's just, formalizing that, for both the developer and the city so that there is a record essentially of what those requirements are and conditions. So if you would rather do it some other way, we could certainly change it. But this allows the development to continue on. And I would tell you this, that subdivision approvals are administrative. It's essentially the city, staff, and planning commission applying our current ordinances. So there's very little discretion in these approvals of subdivisions, which is why it's an administrative action and it's handled on an administrative level, and we come and bring everything to you to ratify it is currently how it's set up, and that's the reason why it's set that way.
Did you follow within that ordinance and code, then
Yes,
administratively you can move forward?
right.
Okay.
All right, let's see if we can. All right. Let's see. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-04 and ratify the Archibald Estates Plat L subdivision development agreement. The same thing.
It is, and this is just, you probably are aware of this, but this is on essentially at 1,000 and 1,000 North, 1,000 West, across from the hospital.
So now that's a basin up there, right?
It is.
And I see that going in right now. What's to the west of that? Is that a park? To
Is that left or right?
the right of that?
The right. Oh, that's, give me another phase.
Oh, the other side, I guess.
That's 1,000 West.
The hospital road is the one on,
right.
over here on the left, right? Yeah.
Well, that's 10th, that's
Yeah,
Lazy Boy Road.
Can you orient them, Lindsay, or?
Which road are you talking about?
I'm confused now
So
too.
10th north, 10th west is right, or 1,000 west is over here on the left.
Right, on the right. I think you said the left, that's where we
Isn't
cut.
that north? That's 10th north, isn't it?
I'm,
So north, you can see the north arrow. Do you know where that is?
Yeah, that north arrow would be represent more or less where
Right.
Kent's west.
That's
is.
north right there.
That's the west side.
Oh,
of
okay.
that subdivision.
Yeah.
Now,
so where are the apartments at?
Yeah.
That are up now?
Townhouses are
the
right there.
Townhouse is
they're
Oh,
right
right
there.
there. Oh, okay.
You're done, pretty much.
Okay,
so
okay.
you gotta lay sideways and
Okay.
orient north.
Because I see this, I see that basin going in right now, and I just wondered where that was in relationship to the whole.
Now the basin like,
The retention.
Storm
basin.
drain?
okay, so retention
This last
basin's
part,
all
we don't
down
need
here
to-
at the south end.
The,
We do have the headwork
surplus
section going in. Now,
I saw
I think
that.
what we better do is
Yeah.
try to get Roger in here to get a picture. He wants to
Okay.
get a picture.
That retention basin's on 900 West, right, Paul?
Retention basin.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
retention
that's what I
basin,
thought.
there's some open green space, that's
And
where
that's
the
their park.
retirement section, or the over 50 section is in
Okay.
that phase, in that whole subdivision.
Looks like there's 47 townhomes coming up right there.
Right in there, yeah. They've started construction on the infrastructure on the second set.
All right, let's go ahead and take a little break here. We're going to invite Roger in and have him, everybody get together and get a picture with Roger, and then we'll take a little break and try to get started pretty close to 7 o'clock.
We're glad to welcome you to Tremonton City Council this evening. We appreciate you being here on kind of a beautiful snowy evening. And yes, it's a nice evening to be here in Tremonton City. And Lyle Vance is going to offer our opening prayer, and we will be praying. If somebody's uncomfortable with the prayer, you can step out and join us in a minute. Otherwise, Lyle.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee at the opening of this Tremonton City Council meeting. We're grateful unto thee for all the many blessings thou hast bestowed upon us. We're thankful for the moisture that we're receiving. Please bless us with the moisture that we so need here in this valley. We're grateful to live in this community amongst great people. Please bless us here tonight that we might be able to have open minds, that we might be able to hear all sides of the issues and be able to make good decisions for the citizens of this town. At this time, as we pay special honors to our outgoing mayor, Roger Friedall. We're grateful for his service over the last 14 years, for his dedicated service to the citizens here in this town. We're grateful to all those people who support him and continue to give service to the citizens here. We're grateful unto thee for all thou hast bestowed upon us, and ask these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Troop 126 will present the flag.
Color guard attention. Audience attention. Please rise. Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Cross the colors. Proper hand salute. Color guard post the color of the Utah flag. Color guard post the colors of the United States of America. Repeat the pledge with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard reassemble. Color guard forward march. Color guard dismiss. Audience at ease.
Thank you very much for coming and participating. We appreciate it.
Like him being down here.
And we have some business that needs to be taken care of right now. And Lindsay, we'll turn the time over to you.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Wes first?
Or
Come on up, Wes.
come on up.
Better have you over there so we can see your face.
Yeah.
You gotta do it first, and then we'll sign just a minute. You have to repeat after me. Ready?
Okay.
I state your name.
I, Wesley Step,
Do affirm that I will support,
do affirm that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Perfect. Okay, now you can sign these two.
Now I can sign.
Sign them both and then one copy off you. That one.
Sworn out.
All right, Lyle.
Okay. Come on.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Lyle Holmgreen,
Do affirm that I will support,
do affirm that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Sign both of those. You want to keep one of those?
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Roger. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations and condolences.
Thank you, Roger.
Hey.
Wes's stuff.
Oh, he'll be fine.
Oh, so now you're gonna leave, huh?
All right. You know, we're going to break the agenda just for a moment here. I, for one, want to thank Roger for, as it was said, 14 years he's been on the council, or 12 years as the mayor of our community, and I've watched him through the years, and his dedication to doing even the small things that needed to be done, you know, and being there for ribbon cuttings and all of that kind of thing. He was always there, and very, very faithful and very devoted to our community. And I just want to tell him thanks. All right. Let's see. I don't think we have any guests that we need to introduce as far as being on the agenda, but we want to make sure we recognize, and I told everybody that I probably wouldn't be able to remember my name at this point, so we're going to go through here and recognize. We got Mark Christensen, Sean, of course, Wes Estep, who's taken be here with us, Connie Archibald, Lyle Vance, Brett Rohde, Rick Siemens, Frenchie, Robert Lacroix, and Chad Heyman. Did he left? Okay. And Shari Euler, and I don't think, did I miss anybody?
Nick.
Oh, Nick. Well, Nick, you're here with your head bowed down. I couldn't hardly see you. All I could see is just the top of your head. Nick Nesson, Police Chief.
Did you get Lindsay as well?
Who?
Did you get Lindsay as well?
I did not get, see, I told you I wouldn't be able to do this correctly for the first time, but Lindsay Nesson, of course, keeps us all straight.
Hey, don't take off yet, guys. Chief, would you introduce those firefighters?
Hey.
Hey.
I didn't recognize some of them. They're just right around the corner.
Walked around the
Walking out,
corner.
yell at them.
Joe, Dave, and Adam.
A couple there I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to know who they are.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, this is the crew on shift. Dave Herron. Adam Tisher. Joe Rathbone. Dan Nelson.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
And welcome. Thank you.
All right. Very good. Do we have anybody with any conflicts of interest? Declare any conflict of interest tonight?
I have to wear those now.
All right. Approval of the agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
It's
I'll second.
been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of the minutes for December 7th, 2021.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda,
minutes?
the minutes for December 7th, 2021.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded that we approve these minutes, the umpteen pages of them. And for December 7th, 2021, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have approved the minutes. All right, this section here, this session, part of the evening is the public comment period. In the past, we've always had, when you come up and do your public comments, it's been a listening session that the council has just been up here and listened to your comments. We thought we'd try to do something a little differently now, so what we're going to do, we'll go ahead and have our public comment period, but if, then we'll try to answer the questions here. So you kind of get you feel like you got your questions answered. And then if the question is technical in nature or one that we can't answer on the spot, what we do is when you sign in on your, Lindsay sent around a sign-up sheet. On that sign-up sheet is a place where you can put your email address. And if we can't answer the question on the spot here, we'll try to get that question answered within 2 or 3 days. So the time's now yours. Public comments?
Good, Jeff.
So we'll have you come up and we'll state your name and
Good evening.
About
My
3
name is
minutes.
Jeff Oat. I'm a resident here. I just wanted to offer, after listening to your workshop earlier about some of the planning processes, to also, you might want to consider some of the federal agencies. From Department of Agriculture, the Forest Service uses the limits of acceptable change process. And one of the benefits of getting people who have been through the process is they've been through the whole thing. You hire a consultant, a contractor, oftentimes they know processes, but they aren't with you to see it through to completion and to do your after-the-fact measurements and those types of things. Where when you talk to some of the agency people, they've been through the entire process and might be able to offer you some benefits.
very good.
That's all I had.
Do you have their contacts? Do you have their contacts?
Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, we've got a contact with the Department of Ag. Thank you. Roger, I don't know. I'm not sure.
3 minutes.
I am a resident of Tremonton. Okay, and I thought this was an opportunity to actually say what I think. Because I have not been able to do that for 12 years. But I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think. This group of people here that govern Tremont City are the finest people that I know. They're dedicated, hardworking, they work so hard. You guys work so hard. You people work so hard. You're not all guys. Okay, you work so hard in doing what's best for Tremont City. That's what you're here for. You sacrifice a huge amount of time and effort and energy and study and prayer and to make Tremont a better place. And I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate working for you and the job that you have done for Tremont City and will continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, the public comment period is closed. Let's go through the agenda now and talk about our new council business. Discussion and consideration of approving the October financial statements. Any discussion on that? Questions?
I've looked at them. I make a motion that we approve the October financial statements.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded that we approve the October financial statements. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Discussion and consideration of approving the October warrant register.
I'll make a motion that we approve the October warrant register.
I'll second it.
Okay. Been moved and seconded that we approve the October warrant register. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, discussion and consideration of approving the November financial statements.
I make a motion that we approve November financial statements.
Okay, it's been moved
Second.
by Lyle Vance. We approved and seconded by Wes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're good to go. Discussion and consideration of approving the November warrant register.
I'll make a motion that we approve this evening the November warrant register.
I'll second.
Moved by Connie and seconded by Rick that we approve the November warrant register. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Discussion and consideration of approving resolution number 22-01, approving the annual review of Tremonton City's moderation income housing plan, implementation, and preparing a report setting for the findings of the said review in compliance with Utah Code 10-9A-408. Sean?
Yeah, Lindsay, do you mind pulling up there's a PowerPoint, and I was just going to roll through this fairly quickly, but I think it's a significant enough issue, especially in light of what is going on with the housing market. And these slides I have adapted from the meeting that we had at the fairgrounds. So some of the content you'll see is pretty similar, but I thought it'd be a good reminder. So if you'd hit the next slide, this is just to show you the variability that's been in the market here recently from 20 to 21. You can see box elder has increased. I think I can't quite see it, 24%, 20%. 20%, and that's based upon 352 transactions, which is a significant increase in housing prices in just 1 year. So if you would go to the next slide. So when we talk about affordable housing, we're really talking about what the state identifies as affordable housing and the requirement in the state code to essentially remove barriers for affordable housing. It's the state legislators' purpose and frankly determination that affordable housing is available to all, and that housing that meets affordability is available in all communities. And so we are of a size that we're required to report to the state annually our efforts to comply with their directives. And so affordable housing, it's looking at 80% of the area median income. And for Box Elder County, that's $74,000 for a family of four. And so the household size affects it. And you can see that chart that shows what 80% of AMI. When we also talk about affordable housing, it's just not 80%, but it's below 80%. And the intervals typically, I think, are 80%, 50%, and 30%. And as it relates to housing, there's a certain portion of someone's income that, that housing shouldn't exceed. And for low to moderate income, in talking to one of our partners that helps us achieve affordable housing, he identified that at 38% of someone's annual income, should be, going towards housing. So you can see that on the far right column. So if you would go to the next slide. So the report that we're required to give, we use data that the state is putting together and refining. I anticipate and expect the data to get better over time. And essentially we go onto a website and we select our name and it populates some of the data. But these are what they estimate to be the housing, the available housing units at these different income levels of 80%, 50%, or 30% of the adjusted median family income. And you can see we're positive at 80%, and you can see, we're in deficit at 50 and 30%. And frankly, 30% is really low income. And it's really hard to provide that type of housing at that income level. Historically, we've shown deficits at that 30%. We do have some subsidized housing from the state and from the federal level, but at any rate, it's still, according to the state, shows that we're at a deficit. So we talked about this. This is the legislature's determination that municipalities shall facilitate reasonable opportunity for a variety of housing of moderate income. And really, it's not to marginalize marginalized people at different incomes, but they want essentially the city and those housings to be inclusive. So, we're to meet the needs of people at various income levels, living, working, and desiring to live or work within the community, and allow people at various income levels to benefit from and fully participate in all aspects of neighborhood and community life, again, to be inclusive. So if you would go to the next.
Ron?
Yes.
So we're required to do that. by
Absolutely.
state code.
Absolutely required. And
If we don't,
well, frankly, if we don't, like, for example, really what we need to do is we need to pick these strategies, and we'll talk about those. But for example, we have this requirement to report, and if we don't report, they'll start withholding revenues from the city. Because a lot of revenues that we receive, flow through the state down to us, and so that's one of the ways that they demand or require compliance. These are the strategies that Tremonton City has selected through our moderate income housing plan. And it's the distribution of moderate income housing, rezoning for densities necessary to assure the production of moderate income housing. Because there's only so much within our control. And again, what the state's trying to do is make sure that we remove as many barriers as we can. One of the things that we have the ability to do is zone property, and that's significant, frankly. And so that's one of the ones that they encourage us to do, and one within our ability to do. The rehabilitation improvement of single-family homes, that's another strategy that we've selected. And through the redevelopment agency, this was another program that the state created, again, to give resources to cities to provide and help with affordable housing. But there was a set aside with the West Liberty Foods Redevelopment Agency project area. So over that life of that project, there was quite a bit of money that was set aside. 20% of the increment actually was earmarked for affordable housing. And we've used those funds in a very judicious way and leveraged them with grant funds and have done the neighborhood improvement program. You may recall that. We actually have another phase that's been completed and another phase that we're going to enter into. So at the next meeting, we will have Dave, our good friend and partner from Neighborhood Nonprofit, come and report. And we've also partnered with, you might recall, with Habitat for Humanity and waived some of the impact fees. Well, I should say the RDA paid the impact fees on behalf of Habitat for Humanity and the house that they did here in Tremonton. So if you would, if you go back to the agenda, I'll just show you, and I won't spend a lot of time, but the report that we're providing to the state includes the numbers and the data that we've gone over in brief. And right here, stop right there. And here's all the strategies. And what I think we'll do is every year, since we're required to do it, we'll just add, what we accomplished, that year. And so there'll be a running list so you can see historically what we've done. And we have some of the rezoning that's taken place from 2000, looks like 19 forward. And we'll continue to add to it every year. So even you can start to see kind of the record that we've been able to document our compliance with our strategies. And it includes essentially the projects that I've talked about, rezoning, the neighborhood improvement program, the Habitat for Humanity project. We also participated and used some of our RDA funds to help with the Bear River apartments that are along and near Fourth West and the railroad tracks right there that are owned and managed by Bragg. Provided some money to help those, help with some improvements and infrastructure to service that project. So, unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
All right, let's see here.
So I think there is a resolution that will formalize and once approved, we'll forward it to the Department of Workforce Services, which is the state agency that receives the reports, along with our housing authority, which is Bear River Association of Governments.
All right, I guess any questions for Sean?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 22-01.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
moved by Brett and seconded by Connie to adopt resolution 22-02. All in favor?
01.
Sorry, I'm sorry, looking at the wrong one. 22-01, all in favor?
Aye.
You have to do a roll call.
The roll call.
Oh, that's right. Oh, man.
Rick,
Okay,
aye.
roll call.
Rick, aye.
Brett, aye.
I can't do, I can vote.
No.
Lyle Vance, aye.
I'm out of the voting.
Honey Archibald, aye.
West East Step Aye.
Very good. All right, I'm learning here. Sorry, Roger. All right. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-02, reaffirming Sean Warnke as a member of the Utah Telecommunication Open Infrastructure Utopia Board of Directors and appointing Mark Christensen as an alternate member of the Utopia Board of Directors.
How often do you meet, Sean?
We meet quarterly. You know, there were a time when we were meeting monthly, even like every other week there for, during the time that there was a lot of items that needed to be discussed. But Utopia is in a really good spot. In fact, I'm in a try to line them to come up and give a report, and you can see the progress that's been made, and it's really encouraging. And other cities are building out. Frankly, all the cities, I think, will be built out. All the 11 original cities will be built out by spring, and we have other cities who are participating: Pleasant Grove, Clearfield, West Point, Morgan, and all those are in the process of getting built out too. And so the future's pretty bright for that endeavor. It's taken a while. And
We don't have any, there for a while, they assessed us quite a bit. Are those assessments still?
So they have paid us back for the operation and maintenance. They're at a point where we still have sales tax pledges that we're paying for the debt, and the revenues that are being generated by the network themselves are to the point where they're starting to contemplate helping provide some sales tax relief. So yeah, but I'll ask them to come up in the next couple meetings and see if I can't schedule them, and you can hear and ask more questions.
Good. All right. What do you think?
I'll make a motion here, but Utopia went through a thing where it was pretty sketchy to begin with, and it's turned into a real asset in our community, especially with COVID going on. People are staying home working from their houses and that. It's been a great thing for our community. I'm glad that we've got it here. I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 22-02.
I'll second.
And moved by Lyle Vance that we adopt resolution number 22-02 and seconded by Rick. Roll call.
Rick, aye.
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Honey Archibald, aye.
West East Step Aye.
Resolution passes. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-03, ratifying the Aspen Ridges Townhome Development and Aspen Ridge Phase 2 Subdivision Development Agreement. Sean?
Question
Oh,
on this one.
okay.
Why do we need to have a legislative approval on these ratifications? They're following code, right? So why do they even need to be presented to us?
Well, so it's a resolution, so it's more administrative than legislative. And, the reason we do that, and it is recorded, but we try to document. I mean, one of the things, I put a lot of things in resolution form, and that's more for archives. It helps to essentially find those documents fairly quickly for us. It is recorded. In fact, you should see the recorder stamp if you go through. So we could always go to the county and pull the records right there. So these development agreements run with the land. But, if you preferred not to, we could certainly not do it, and just file them, another way. But I think it is helpful for you as the city council to see, what has been agreed upon and what's been formalized. And again, I like the resolution format just because it's easy for city staff to go back and find and produce and visit as we need to. So,
where this subdivision's already been built out and everything, it just seems like we're putting a stamp on something that's already done. It's not gonna do us any good to debate or discuss or anything like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
All this really is knowledge.
it is.
There's nothing to decide on, and so that's why I bring up the question. It's like, are we making ourselves culpable or something to decisions that have already been made by putting our names on them?
Yeah, and you've already authorized, the mayor's already, through the ordinance, the mayor's authorized to sign, once the city engineer and city attorney has signed, the agreement, and then it can be recorded. So you could certainly do that. Another way that we've done things like this too is you could always have a consent agenda, where you can just approve one agenda item, and if there's multiple things, on. So typically, you can see consent agendas for items that you're just ratifying. And typically, we don't have two, and so I don't know if it makes a lot of sense, but certainly your point's well taken, Brett, and I think you're exactly right. Those are the reasons why we do bring it forward, and if you'd rather not, we could change the code and do something different too.
What do you guys think?
Consent items.
The only thing I think is it's just kind of good to see this, to have it come
progression.
across, and so we can see what's happening, even if it is a ratification. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate it. I think my question is more, it's already done. And so,
Maybe it would be better just do it under consent sort of a thing, and
I'm not saying it has to be that way. I'm trying to get some
Yeah,
answers.
and what I could do is I could just put it on the city manager's report and just report to you. It wouldn't be in resolution form, which is sort of the way, again, I feel like there is value in having it in a resolution.
It's easier to research and pull up that way.
It is, yeah, for archives. And the resolutions are fairly straightforward and easy to put together. So there's not a lot of time on my end to do it. But, we want you guys you as a council to feel comfortable with how we do things, so.
I like the detail. I mean, we see everything when it comes across as a resolution. If we forego it and don't vote on it and that type of stuff, I would want to see as much detail. That's the only thing, is if we lose the detail and don't know what's going on.
And usually this is a little unusual. It's usually not that much of a lag. Usually what'll happen is it'll get recorded, and there's like a 2 or 3 week. So it might be 2 council meetings at most. But this one certainly is beyond that time. So it does feel a little unusual and maybe a little uncomfortable for that reason. But usually they're spaced closer together.
So help me answer this. If with this particular resolution of the Aspen Ridge Townhome development, we can rest assured that everything was followed according to code with the development committee and the development review committee, and nothing was added or changed or anything. We need to trust that it's following the code to the T and nothing else is being added or done.
Right.
Okay, and if anything is an exception, then it goes through a different process?
Yeah, I mean, there is some variation, slight variations, I would say, that occur from time to time because of unusual circumstances. But anything, that's extraordinary, that's out of, the purview, we work towards amending the code and have it, if it's something that's universal, that applies across the board, we'll amend the code. But, there's sometimes, like for an example, I'll give you an example. Our ordinance talks about driveway width. Well, I'll give you another example. Yeah, I'll use that one, the driveway width. So it's 40 feet, but, for like Val Stokes, who's doing a trucking operation, 40 feet, felt like it wasn't enough turning radius for the number of volume of trucks and the amount of trucks that would go through. And what would happen as a result of having a smaller driveway width is the degradation of the curb, with semis running over it. And so, there was some adjustment, for example, on that, just to make sure that it would function well and function properly according to some engineering standards. So there are some deviations, that occur from time to time that are specific, to projects, but ones that we feel like, need to be formalized, through the Planning Commission, City Council, because these are issues that are applicable and the code really needs to be changed. We do that. So, I'd be happy to talk to you more about that if you don't feel comfortable with it, but.
So I think what I'm understanding here, and this to help you, Wes, and I've been in 8 years, and so I'm just still learning this stuff. The resolution, are all resolutions administrative? And so those are really not things that the resolution is to give us information.
Yeah, and
right?
And it's an approval. It's essentially you have an ordinance you're legislating, and that's can be enforced through a fine or penalty, and resolutions aren't. This is just a contractual agreement between the city and the developer to essentially build out and develop the subdivision according to the city ordinances. So there's no penalty or fines. The way we would enforce it is through, the court system, any contract. And that's why we do development agreements. We not only have the city code that we can use to enforce, because those are ordinances and are punishable by, fines and penalties that way, but we also have a contract that we can enforce. And so we have two mechanisms to require compliance.
Okay, so I think I'm comfortable with the idea that a resolution's giving me the information that I need to know what you did with this particular development, whatever, and we're just putting our stamp on it and say, yes, we understand this is what you did.
Yes. Okay. And I can even be clearer on the resolution. Maybe I could write that in.
That's okay. I think it was just me needing to know a little bit better the difference between a resolution and an ordinance.
Yeah, because they seem similar, but that's really the big difference.
Yeah.
So I'm not the only.
No.
Okay.
All right.
I would also say, Brett, just as a matter, when you're legislating, you usually have more discretion. And so when we adopt, we visited, Wes and I visited talking about different land use decisions and what they're based on. There's the administrative decisions, which is what essentially city staff does in applying the code. Then you have, and there's little discretion. And it's based on findings of facts and compliance. Yours is a legislative decision, and essentially they're valid. The standard there is they're valid, and if they're reasonably debatable to advance the general welfare of the public. And so there's much more discretion, when you make a legislative decision. This is more administrative, and it's just more or less, formalizing, the approval.
Okay, that helps me.
Any other questions on that? All right, let's start on this end over here. Wes, we'll give you the opportunity to start off. Let's see, let's go ahead and
We need someone to make.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2203, ratifying the Aspen Ridge's Townhome Development and Aspen Ridge Phase 2 Subdivision Development Agreement.
I'll second it.
okay.
Wes Eastep, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Brett, aye.
Rick, aye.
See, we know what you want.
We limped through that one, didn't we? Okay. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 22-04, ratifying the Archibald Estates Plan L subdivision development agreement. Same sort of thing. This is another
I
ratification.
don't think you talked about this one, did you? We didn't get time to talk about this one, did we?
Well, we did. We talked about the orientation. I don't know if that will help
Yeah, that was
your
with all of
memory,
the-
looking at the plat.
That
and
was
trying
it,
to-
right there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one is ratifying Plat L. What part of this is Plat L?
Go back, if you would, Lindsay, to hopefully this, and the plats aren't always very clear because you don't really see the landmarks. But it's essentially the figure eight, I'll say. You have that square block, which was phase one, I'll call it, even though it was assigned a letter as the phase number. But it's the other, it's the more figure eight shape.
So the two on the below and above the retention basin?
Yes.
Okay.
And also to the, I guess it would be to the south.
Okay. Now, don't they have right over in that area, don't they have some pickleball
I
courts?
think it's even farther south.
A little bit south, more south? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions? All right.
I'll make a motion. Are you ready, Mayor?
I am.
I'll make a motion that we approve this evening or adopt resolution number 22-04, ratifying the Archibald Estates Plat L.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Connie and seconded by Wes that we adopt resolution number 22-04. And let's see.
Rick, aye.
Brett, aye.
Lyle Vance, aye.
Connie Archibald, aye.
West eye.
Motion, resolution passes. Okay, discussion and consideration to surplus a 2001 International 10-wheeler dump truck, fleet number 337, 191,447 miles. And I'm not going to read the VIN number.
You don't need to. This is just a truck we purchased used back in '03 from Salt Lake County. We used to buy some of their vehicles when they were doing the rotation through. And my guys refused to drive it because the frame's cracked and they're afraid it's gonna fall apart on them. And it's only good for, we use our vehicles till they're wore out in the public works. And it's only good for scrap material or parts that someone would buy for. So it's not like we'd put it out on the surplus market to try to get we'd be lucky to get scrap price for that vehicle. And we just want the right given by the council to surplus that piece of equipment out of our fleet.
Okay.
Trust me, it is wore out.
Okay. Good to know.
I make the motion. Surplus that old truck.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Moved by Wes and seconded by Lyle Vance that we surplus this 10-wheeler. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Scrap metal.
That's what it is.
All right. Let's see, do we, should we go ahead and review the calendar? Review the calendar and any past assignments? Anything there we need to talk about?
Yeah, actually, there's some training opportunities, and one's going to be here in house, which I'd encourage you to come if you're available. But Utah League of Cities and Towns is putting forth a newly elected officials training. It's going to be in January 8th. Is that Friday or Saturday? Saturday, okay. It is in North Salt Lake. I think it might be at the Trust Building. But if you're interested, let us know, and we can get you enrolled, and you could certainly participate.
So when it says USU Extension Centers statewide, is there one in Brigham City?
Well, that opportunity was December 11th.
Well, that's come and gone. Yeah, of course it has.
Yeah.
Okay. But the other one is January 8th.
It is.
Okay.
The same training, I believe, but they just had multiple sessions. So then the other one is land use training. That's going to occur at the next Planning Commission. It's going to be Jordan Colmore, who is the lead attorney with the Property Ombudsman's Office. Christy Bocut I think you might recall, she suggested this as a source of training, and we use the ombudsman's office, frequently. In fact, I talked to him just this week on a land use issue. But that, just as a background, the state legislature years ago put together an ombudsman's office, and it's really to help local governments and property owners resolve and work through any land use issues, that occur. And they're a great resource. One of the things that they do is provide training, but I call them as needed, just as a check to make sure I understand issues, correctly, and to get some guidance and direction. And yeah, I just can't say enough good things about them as a resource. And so this attorney is going to come out, and I think it's going to be a style where he gives them topics to choose from, and then he'll just go through and provide some good training on whatever is on the planning commission's mind, or city council. Frankly, if you guys come, I'm sure he'd entertain any questions that you had as well, and provide training on the spot.
So he's coming here.
Yes.
Great.
Yep. So it's going to be, January 11th at 5:30.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, so please come. I really would encourage you.
Coincide with your planning commission, or with the planning commission.
Yeah, it'd be that meeting.
All right. City manager reports. Do you have anything for us?
Before we go on, if we have 3 people here from the city, it is a public meeting anyway, so we're okay to have that.
Well, it's the planning commission's meeting, but we could advertise it as a joint meeting if you felt like there was going to be enough, city council members present, but you can attend someone else's meeting.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. Just want to make sure we were.
Yeah,
within
no,
the
and that's a
framework
good.
we're supposed to.
Absolutely.
Okay.
John, did you have any comments for us, or report?
I do not.
Okay. DRC reports, anything there?
For the last couple meetings, we haven't, they've been canceled. We do have some, I think one coming up on January 12th. Also, I'm going to be speaking to UDOT on January 12th as well. Part of the discussion that we've talked about through the crossroads is people's concern about traffic at the crossroads and on Main Street. And so we'll be talking to UDOT and seeing what options are there. I do, I've been looking and Mark too. Mark's frankly been helping in this regard, but there's what's called the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Fund. And I think there's about $700,000 that might be available in that fund to help, to help with reducing of congestion. The idea is it's an congestion mitigation, air quality. If you can reduce traffic congestion, you can improve air quality. And because we're in what's called a non-attainment area, where we have a certain particulate, and I forget all the, the thresholds, but essentially there's federal funds available because our airshed qualifies based on the number of particulates, in our air shed. And this is money that's been built up over time. And last time we used it, we used it for the Iowa String right-hand turn lane and improving that intersection, actually at Main Street and 1000 West. I don't know if you remember that, but we built turn lanes in. And so, anything that can essentially reduce cars idling, is a good project. Has a potential for a good project. They've also retrofitted, Connie, just for your information, school buses, and Brett's too, to have cleaner air. I think there's a diesel retrofit, and that's been something that those have been used in other areas. But nonetheless, so we're looking at every option to try to see what's available and how we can, how we can address those residents' concerns. And this might come to fruition, but I'll keep you posted.
Sounds good. Department head reports, anything there that we need to talk about? Do we have questions?
No, I do appreciate the reports that you're sending. Thank you.
Nick and Robert both. Yeah, they're very much appreciated. Yeah, good. Council reports? Rick?
Thanks for the people that clean our snow. What can I say? So,
The first snow we had, very impressive.
It was warm, wet, and so it came off really good. Didn't pack down because of the pavement wasn't frozen.
Well, and I noticed a lot of the roads, it just seemed like a better quality plowing. Was it because of that, or?
It was the snow.
Okay.
Time of day in the snow.
It was great.
And you started early.
We plowed,
Got on it early.
same time and same number of guys. Except for one twin team we didn't use.
One question, DRC, 9 o'clock?
Usually, but we don't have one tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay.
I don't either.
Wes, welcome.
My report is just, I'm glad to be here. You know, you are a bunch of remarkable men, and we have great leaders and head of departments, and Sean, Mark, you know. It's a real opportunity, and I'm here to learn and feel like I got things to contribute, so.
We feel like that too.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Much.
One thing I guess we talked about over the last little while is we're going to make an effort to do a better job of communicating with the public. And one of the things we intend to do is have sort of a newsletter that can come via email that we have come out maybe bi-monthly or depends on how fast we can put information together and that kind of thing. Mark is working on that right at the moment and trying to put the framework together and whatnot. So we're excited about that. One thing we did learn, I guess, through all of the public comments and all of the information that we were able to glean over the last couple of months from the public is just that we can do a little better job of communicating back what's really going on and being open and that kind of thing. So we're excited about that, and I don't know how Mark plans to get everybody's email address, but I think what we're going to do is start on the website, and then if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can do that way. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Currently, the Parks and Recreation Department puts out one. So there is a button on the homepage if anybody in here wants to sign up for that leisure services email, and all of those email addresses we'll be able to gather for this.
Okay, we have something to start with. Well, with that, thanks, Roger. Thanks for all the years of devotion and service that you've given our community, and I appreciate all you've done. I guess we'll have one more motion.
have to go to close.
Mr. Mayor?
Motion we adjourn.
We have two more motions.
Yeah,
I guess-
if you guys are up to doing a closed session, would consider that. I think it would be fairly quick. I'm thinking 5 minutes.
Okay, all right,
Motion we adjourn.
all right. And do we need to go into
Make a motion, we go into closed session,
closed session?
Okay.
All right,
and we'll adjourn after that.
okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming out tonight.
Guess we don't have to turn these off. She turns them off.